So the Yain Führer, Joe Biden 2.0, has issued a final solution on Truth Social to the people of Gaza. Let's take a look at what he said on Truth Social. Shalom Hamas means hello and goodbye. You can choose. Release all of the hostages now, not later, and immediately return all of the dead bodies of the people you murdered, or it is over for you. Only sick and twisted people keep bodies, and you are sick and twisted. And then Yain Führer says he's going to send to Israel everything that it needs to finish the job. Final solution. Wipe them all out. Get rid of them all. They notified Congress. They approved $3 billion weapons sale to Israel, which includes 2,000-pound bunker buster bombs, which were previously suspended by the last administration. But hell, Joe Biden was doing the genocide himself, so, I mean, the baboon's ass, the orange orangutan, is just Joe Biden 2.0. Not a single Hamas member will be safe if you don't do as I say. I have just met with your former hostages whose lives you have destroyed. This is your last warning, so do as I say, not as I do. It remains unclear what timeline the president is looking at. He's referring to a last warning, right? This is his last warning before the final solution. The final solution is coming up. Ethnic cleansing. He's saying, hey, look, all the buildings are blown up, it's an absolute hellscape. Why would anybody want to live? They want to live there. There's no other land that they'd want to be, just like that best documentary, the Oscars. The title of that movie was called No Other Land. If the Palestinians have a choice of being displaced to some other country or staying at Gaza and possibly dying at their post, at their stakes, like they did with Alexander the Great, they'll accept a martyr's death. Michael Moore also has that movie From Ground Zero. Apparently it's on Apple Plus TV. And then there was that BBC movie that they censored, Gaza, How to Survive a War Zone. For the leadership, now is the time to leave Gaza while you still have a chance. Then he proceeded to threaten all 2 million residents of Gaza, to the people of Gaza. A beautiful future awaits, but not if you hold the hostages. If you do, you are dead, he wrote. Make a smart decision. Release the hostages now, or there will be hell to pay later. If you do, you are dead. Isn't that the same thing Hassan Abi just did? Hassan the Hun, the Twitch superstar. And then you can read this two ways. Maybe he's just threatening the people of Gaza who's holding the hostages, or maybe he's saying to all the people in Gaza, if there's still hostages to be held. There's still like a couple dozen hostages, but the phase one, Hamas did everything that they said they were going to do on phase one. Now phase two is going to be a harder thing to negotiate. Phase two is two things. The occupation of Israel has to end, and then the Hamas leadership has to go. Those are the two things. But you can't just do one and then, expect the other side to do what they say they're going to do. You would have to do it at the same time, right? You don't go and buy your carton of eggs for $20. 1 minute you take the eggs and then give them the $20, 4 months later. You do it right then and there. You give the $20, you get the carton of eggs. So that's pretty, that's pretty terrifying. To the people of Gaza, a beautiful future awaits, but not if you hold hostages. If you do, you are dead. D-E-A-D, dead. Make a smart decision. Release the hostages now, or there will be hell to pay later. I think it's incredible that when it comes to Nancy Pelosi was saying even if America collapses, we would still give our pound of flesh to Netanyahu. We have to get down on our hands and knees, and we absolutely have to bow down to the great Netanyahu. We have to. Even the Old Testament can condemn Israel when they do evil, but not the U.S. government. The U.S. government doesn't care if Israel bombs the USS Liberty 1967. The U.S. government doesn't care if an American citizen, Rachel Corrie, was ran over by a bulldozer. You have to suck Netanyahu's dick. You got to suck his dick to the tune of $3 billion, $4 billion, $8 billion. We just sent them $7 billion. Now we just sent them another $3 billion. Holy fucking shit. So we could have, solved homelessness 2 times over, but instead just going to keep on carrying on with the genocide. You know there's a lot of things that's terrifying, is terrifying about this. Our technology has surpassed our humanity like 20 times over. It's lapping our humanity 20 times over. Yeah, we got the technology to do great damage to people, but we're damaging our own standing in the world. We're damaging our own standing in the world. We're no longer the leader of the free nations, the free country. We're no longer the free world. We don't have any moral imperative. We don't have any moral high ground to do any kind of humanitarian interventions or defensive interventions. Look what's happening in Gaza. And then the one good thing we were doing in Ukraine, now we're not going to do it. We're going to let Europe just collapse. And I heard that Putin wants to go after all the Balkans. So there's a whole bunch of countries that's right there by Ukraine. He probably wants the entire Iron Curtain back. He wants all those old countries that was a part of the USSR. And he's capitalistic as hell. He was like hand chosen by a communist before they had stepped down. He was KGB. And the history of the ceasefire when it comes to Gaza is it's pretty standard. So what they do is we'll have a ceasefire agreement, and just like Putin, there was 25 ceasefire agreements. They'll break the ceasefire agreement over and over and over again. And then after breaking the ceasefire over and over and over again, they'll do something that really pushes Palestinians to retaliate. And then once they retaliate, they say, see, they broke the ceasefire deal. They're the ones who did. They're killing people in the West Bank. They're still killing folks. They have no intentions whatsoever of ending this war. The only way that this war could have ended is if Trump was a man and he actually stood up to Israel like the God of the Old Testament. In the book of Judges, the book of Kings, over and over again, God says that Israel was doing wickedness in the eyes of the Lord. And so even with Moses, when the people were complaining about the promised land and how the people Moses was leading didn't like the promised land, he sent a plague. He sent a plague and killed all those who were complaining. So that's the God of the Old Testament. So Ronald Reagan could stand up to Netanyahu. Ronald Reagan could stand up to Netanyahu. The God of the Old Testament could stand up to Netanyahu. And the history of the ceasefire agreement is they'll break the ceasefire deal, and then when Palestine retaliates because they were just pushed too far, pushed to the brink, then they'll say, see, they broke the ceasefire deal, and then the war will continue. They don't care about the hostages. They're trying to steal the land of Palestine. It's so fucking crystal clear. And then somebody might say, well, how come there's still some Palestinians alive? Do you know how absolutely appalled people would, if they weren't slowly killing them, if just one day 2 million people were just dead, there'd be no doubts. There'd be absolutely no doubts who's the evil empire, who's the wicked stormtroopers. So there's a lot of censorship, right? There's a lot of censorship when it comes to seeing the Palestinian side. We're not allowed to see their humanity. That's why we're not allowed to see Gaza, how to survive a war zone. And there's, the best documentary that's out there, but people are complaining about No Other Land and From Ground Zero as well. Last but not least, I'm going to have Norman Finkelstein. He says that Israel is just a narcissistic Jewish supremacist state. And
that Israel is, as B'Tselem, the Israeli Information Center for Human Rights in the occupied territories, Israel is a Jewish supremacist state, and it wants a purely Jewish state. It doesn't want non-Jews. It doesn't even want Goyim. It doesn't, they think they're better, that they should rule the world, but only Jews. Only Jews, a Jewish supremacist state. And so, let us say that Trump, the so-called Trump plan, though there's no plan, it's just a pronouncement. The problem as I see it is this.